logistics, technology, evolution. TRAXION, life in motion. We follow the passion for movement. We're proud to say we've transformed mobility in Mexico and are playing a leading role in a key industry for the global economy. That's right. We are the clear answer to the pressing need to mobilize and connect the entire country. We've achieved this with the most advanced technology in the digital transformation of logistics. Thanks to those technological solutions, we've evolved to an innovative business model impossible to halt. Because in every traveled road, every landscape we cross, in every shipment, we become stronger and one of the most solid and profitable businesses in the current market. Our strength is guaranteed by our high growth and profitability, turning TRAXION into a synonym of evolution, innovation, and mobility. Now, it's our chance to go even further together.
Very good morning and welcome everyone to the first TRAXION Day. I am Ana Paola Ordorica and I will be the host of today's event. TRAXION's team will be our host for today in this super innovating dialogue, as you might see, between analysts and investors. But before the team of this successful transport and logistics company gives way to a detailed explanation about its business model regarding their scope and prospects, I would like to tell you that TRAXION has established itself as the leading company in the sector, thanks to the fact that they design comprehensive solutions throughout the entire supply chain under the guidance of Avi Lichtstein, Executive President and co-founder of TRAXION, Rodolfo Mercado, the CEO, Wolf Silverstein, the CFO, and Antonio Tejedo, Vice President of Investor Relations, who have all joined us today here for today's event. Once the presentation concludes from the directive team, we will open the forum to a Q&A session. Without any further ado, let me introduce you to Avi Lichtstein. Thank you very much, Ana Paola. Thank you everyone for having joined us this morning. From our first companies, we understood that logistics is to be much more than just wheels. TRAXION has transformed mobility and logistics in Mexico and has positioned itself as a key player within the sector. Before, TRAXION was a group of leading companies in the logistics sector. Now, TRAXION is a force that drives, orders, and organizes this motion and movement. Before, TRAXION was the largest company by fleet size. Now, we are the national leader in the logistics sector. Before, TRAXION provided solutions to transportation needs. Now, we're the provider of integrated mobility solutions. Before, TRAXION was a company with a large infrastructure. Now, it is an innovative solution. We have the broadest portfolio of services in the industry, with solutions in logistics and technology, in mobility of goods, and mobility of people. TRAXION is a one-stop solution. Throughout the supply chain of any product, there are various transportation and logistic processes which require different types of specialization. TRAXION is the only provider in Mexico who offer an integrated door-to-door service mainly using our own infrastructure, which allows us to be more competitive in price, more profitable, as well as having control over the entire operation. Our first business segment is logistics and technology, in which we offer solutions in 3PL warehousing, last mile services, e-commerce, forwarding, parcel and courier, and consolidated cargo. We will be reporting this segment separately from the first quarter of 2021. In addition, TRAXION continues with its vision of disruption through the development of technological solutions that operate under a much less capital-intensive business model. Logistics solutions move the planet in a more efficient way. It is a necessary industry for economies to flourish in a world where customers have become more sophisticated and better informed. And companies seek, therefore, continued efficiency. TRAXION's asset-light segment provides a disruptive mobility solution based on technology and reduces the utilization of fixed assets with less capex requirement. This division is made up of three service segments. TRAXION Logistics provides the 4PL service. These are logistic solutions through a consultative model. The second segment is Traxporta, whose digital broker model allows connecting customers with carriers. And finally, we operate the third segment, which is the last mile segment, through Redpack. Particularly throughout the pandemic, electronic commerce increased significantly in Mexico. According to a study by the Mexican Online Sales Association, throughout 2020, e-commerce grew by 81%, and an estimated value of 316 billion pesos is estimated, something which already represents 9% of retail sales. Similarly, the number of deliveries increased by over 34% between the first and second quarter of 2020, just when the contingency for COVID began. This e-commerce expansion presented a great opportunity for TRAXION, which was able to take advantage of this growth through Redpack. On the other side, there is a great opportunity on the 3PL market. In developed countries, over 65% of companies outsource their logistic processes, mainly because it is more efficient and cheaper, and because specialists handle these processes better. In Mexico, less than 14% of companies do so, which represent an enormous potential for growth and penetration in the short and medium term. Furthermore, the Fortune 500 companies seek to deal with a single logistics service provider that offers all of the solutions. In this sense, TRAXION is among the two largest 3PL players in Mexico, with more than 35,000 square meters of warehousing operations. TRAXION Logistics is a unique platform in Mexico based on technology and talent, through which TRAXION becomes the supply chain solution for its clients, mainly using their own infrastructure and that of third parties. They act as a control tower who design, implement, and manage tailored solutions, stimulating continuous improvement through customer focus. Traxporta is a digital broker that connects clients with carriers and charges a commission for the connection and management of collection and payment. It is an application developed internally by TRAXION and has capabilities and scalability to migrate in the future to other services beyond national cargo, such as cross-border and last mile, as well as to other countries. To operate this business, TRAXION pre-certifies carriers in order to guarantee the level of service to customers. This application maximizes the use of our fleet in spot services and allows third-party carriers to reach more customers, which naturally promotes a 100% digital business with significantly lower investment needs. Redpack is a leader in last-mile services. It was acquired by TRAXION in May 2018 with the aim of transforming it into a relevant player within this market. Since its acquisition, Redpack has increased its sales by 140%. They've expanded its operating capacity over 400%, with only a 28% increase in the fleet and 38% in its workforce. Similarly, Redpack has increased its exposure to e-commerce from less than 2% of sales once it was acquired to more than 70% of their current revenues. Redpack's portfolio of services has evolved significantly to include e-commerce, B2C, C2C, retail, and big ticket. In addition, the cargo and logistics services that Redpack operated are now executed by subsidiaries of TRAXION, with great operational synergies. Redpack also has a series of competitive advantages that make it the best solution for customers and users. Among them is the agility to adapt to very specific customer needs, something complex for large logistics companies due to their size. Today, Redpack is the fifth largest provider of last-mile services in Mexico. The second business segment is the mobility of assets or goods. TRAXION has the broadest and more diverse portfolio of services. We operate from regular dry cargo throughout the country to specialized transportation of petrochemicals and refrigerators. We are leaders in the market for border crossing with the United States, and we have intermodal cargo services in ports and multimodal centers. Similarly, we have national and international moving services with big-ticket product delivery capacity. TRAXION provides solutions for the mobility of assets and goods through 5 subsidiaries with leadership in each of its niches and several decades of experience in the cargo market. The third business segment is the mobility of people. TRAXION is the absolute leader in the personal transport market. With this service, we continuously move employees from their homes to the work centers. It is a market that has continuously evolved over the last 20 years. In Mexico, industrial parks are increasingly located further and further away from urban centers, and private transportation has become an efficient and safe option to public transportation. In this segment, we also offer school transportation, office transportation to hotels and subdivision, as well as private charters. We operate people mobility services through Transportes Lipu, which is a result of the integration of several leading companies in the transport sector for more than 20 years. Every year, we move over 180 million people to and from their workplaces with the highest operating standards and the most exhaustive security protocols, using cutting-edge technology that provides us with operational intelligence for more control and effective operations. Thank you so much, Abby, for having told us a little bit about how it works and what TRAXION is. Undoubtedly, the approach applied by TRAXION towards logistic business supported by technology is innovative and at the level of those of exponents of international stature. Now, I would like Rodolfo Mercado, the company's CEO, to tell us about the growth prospects and some key attributes of TRAXION. Please, Rodolfo, go ahead, the floor is yours. Thank you so much, Ana Paola, and very good morning, everyone. We operate in an industry in constant growth thanks to internal consumption. Mexico has a large demographic profile. With more than 126 million inhabitants, it is the 11th country by population size, and by 2030 it is expected to be the 9th. Additionally, more than 65% of the Mexican population is of economically active age, which drive domestic consumption. All this represents the first great engine of our business. The great industrial expansion that Mexico has experienced since the 90s has resulted in a solid and continuously growing industry. Mexico has three key attributes that make it extremely competitive for a large number of companies. First, there is a large installed manufacturing capacity, one of the largest in Latin America, which promotes the continuous arrival of industrial consumers and suppliers. Secondly, Mexico has a large skilled and competitive workforce. And thirdly, the country has an excellent geographic location, with access to two oceans and located south of one of the largest consumer economies in the world. All of this makes our country to continue being an attractive investment destination for many industries. TRAXION is the only mobility and logistics company listed in the Mexican stock exchange market, and therefore the only institutional investment option in a sector that is essential for the economy and which has great potential for expansion and growth. TRAXION has the highest corporate governance guidelines and has an experienced, committed, and entrepreneurial management team. Furthermore, TRAXION has a proven platform and business model supported by state-of-the-art technology. Likewise, TRAXION has a series of internal committees additional to those institutional that contribute to continuous improvement as well as to profitability. As for example, we've got the Profitability Committee of CAPEX, through which any TRAXION investment project is assessed, evaluated, and monitored in order to guarantee that all of the company's use of capital will be deployed in a profitable manner and will remain that way in the long term. TRAXION's team is led by businessmen from the transport and logistics sector, as well as from executives with extensive experience and knowledge in their areas of expertise. All of this translates into clear leadership. At TRAXION, we work with over 16,500 employees who make possible the efficient delivery of goods and technologies and who move more than 500,000 people every single day. We also serve over 1,000 clients, including global and multinational companies, as well as leading Mexican companies in various sectors for the economy. TRAXION's fleet is the largest and more diverse in Mexico. In terms of school and personal transportation, our fleet is 3 times the size of the next competitors. And in cargo, we rank first in fleet size. This gives us a clear competitive advantage by having operational and commercial flexibility. Today, in TRAXION, with our operating volume, we promote and facilitate the creation of economies of scale that are sustainable in the long term and that translate into synergies and efficiencies. Similarly, and as we have already mentioned, TRAXION is among the 2 largest 3PL warehouse operators in Mexico, with more than 535,000 square meters in operations. It is a business that has great potential for penetration and growth within our country. In 2020, TRAXION launched a commercial initiative through TRAXION Logistics, with an aggressive expansion plan in this line of business. Only over the last quarter of 2020 alone, we increased our 3PL warehouse space by more than 85,000 square meters, which represent a growth of 25% compared to what we were operating by the end of 2019. Beyond the operational and commercial scale of TRAXION, we have a large support infrastructure, made up for more than 1.2 million square meters of warehouses, shunting yards and workshops, as well as 22 terminals and 19 bus enclosures. From everything that I've stated, TRAXION has become for the alternative to meet the logistical needs of our clients and also a great investment option within the market. We would like to thank you for having joined us, and I hope you have an excellent day. Thank you so much, Rodolfo. It is truly outstanding the scale and dimension of TRAXION's business. Now, to also be able to land and analyze the evolution of the company in financial terms, Wolf Silverstein will be presenting some relevant figures. Wolf, go ahead. Thanks, Ana Paula, and good morning, everyone. TRAXION is a disruptive investment with profitable growth accompanied by great solidity that generates results. TRAXION has grown its fleet almost 57% since it became public. Perhaps the most important thing is that this growth has occurred efficiently, under strict control in the deployment of capital, which has driven the profitability of capital investment. Talking about income, we can see that they have increased considerably. If we compare the figures of 2020 with those of 2017, the year in which we began to go public and when the market entrusted us with its capital, we will see that revenues have grown over 100%. That is, we doubled our revenues in 3 years. If we look at the revenue metric in a compound basis, it shows growth of over 26% per year. In the last year alone, TRAXION grew its revenues by more than 17% within an extremely complex macroeconomic environment. Now, regarding EBITDA, TRAXION has managed to grow significantly. Compared to 2017, we grew around 140% in EBITDA, while in compound terms, the growth was of 33.8%. In addition to this, the margin expanded 330 basis points since 2017, going from 17.8% to 21.1% in 2020. Undoubtedly, a highly relevant improvement, for it means that our growth, in addition to being accelerated, has been profitable. It is worth highlighting that in terms of EBITDA, the margin was preserved throughout 2020. In particular, from 2019 to 2020, the EBITDA grew 18%, a figure that is especially significant given the circumstances at a global level. This is also the result of the relevance of asset-light businesses in TRAXION's structure, which allowed the EBITDA to grow much more than our assets. Finally, net income has grown almost 97% compared to that generated in 2017. This is proof of the strength of our business model and the execution abilities of our management team. Today, there is a journey of more than 3 years as a public company with constant and profitable continuous growth. Now, regarding cash flow, there are 2 extremely relevant details. The first of which is that compared to 2017, the growth has increased over 440%. And the second, utmost relevant fact is that if we compare the figure with that of 2019, we see that there was stability in the flows within a particularly challenging year. Our financial discipline is what has allowed us to have stability in difficult times. Finally, I would like to tell you that in terms of debt, TRAXION has deleveraged its balance sheet despite the accelerated growth it has shown. As you know, TRAXION has internal leverage limit of no more than 2.5 times net debt over EBITDA. Beyond currently being far from that limit, we have significantly reduced the company's debt levels. Furthermore, TRAXION's debt profile has improved considerably in terms of term and cost, thanks to the great effort of our team and the confidence of the market. Our leadership goes beyond the sector we operate. TRAXION has a solid balance sheet, a comfortable cash position, and prudent levels of leverage. virtues that few companies within the sector currently have. Thank you very much, and we're going back with Ana Paola. Wolf, thanks so much. It is truly impressive how TRAXION has known how to take advantage of the moment, not only to grow but to deleverage the balance. The growth rates are really very strong, especially those with which they closed 2020, which definitely was not an easy year, yet you succeeded. I would like now, for our last participant, Antonio Tejeda, to tell us about the progress and the path traced by TRAXION for its investments. Come in, please, Antonio, the floor is yours. Thank you so much, Ana Paola, and welcome everyone. Sustainability is of utmost importance for TRAXION. Being the leader in mobility and logistics, naturally, you must also be leader in these three issues as well. At TRAXION, sustainability is based in a comprehensive four-axis model, which are the main issues we are managing at the moment. The first axis is governance, which include corporate governance, integrity, ethics, transparency, and compliance. The second is people. These include issues of working conditions, well-being, training development, safety, and, above all, social responsibility. The third is the planet, and considers environmental issues such as climate change, emissions, and waste. Finally, we've got the axis of growth, which encompasses long-term innovative actions in technology and processes. We began to implement our ESG strategy in 2019 with the materiality analysis and our first integrated report in compliance with the GRI methodology. By 2020, we implemented our sustainability strategy 100%. We created the TRAXION Foundation, we adhered to the United Nations Global Pact, and we joined the Green Finance Advisory Council. We also performed our first analysis of environmental risk and climate change, and we will be publishing our second integrated report also in accordance with GRI. For 2021, we will be implementing our Sustainability Management System program based on KPIs, balanced scorecards, and specific goals. We will also carry out environmental actions in offices in order to address water, energy, waste, paper, and plastic issues. In the same way, we will develop and implement the Green Vision for TRAXION. Finally, we will implement the corporate human capital and process strategies. Now, why invest in TRAXION? TRAXION represents an investment opportunity in the stock market with great growth potential, since it operates an attractive business with a resilient and disruptive model, and with a history of profitable growth that shows clear elements that support the investment thesis. Secondly, the company shows efficiency and healthy leverage levels for a higher profitability. Our incremental return on investment capital is of over 30%. This means that our capital stock has not increased, while the returns delivered are much more attractive. Thirdly, through a strong investment thesis, TRAXION offers clear competitive attributes and advantages. TRAXION operates in a sector that is essential to the Mexican economy. It has high growth potential driven by the implementation of technology and the development of asset-light businesses. TRAXION's exposure to the logistics sector represents an unparalleled value proposal. Finally, TRAXION has a great proven business model, which is difficult to replicate in Mexico in an industry with very high entry barriers. With this, we can conclude our presentation. Thank you so much for your time, and I leave you once again with Ana Paola. Thank you so much, Antonio. We will now open the forum to questions and answers, so these will simply be asked in English.
We remind you that you can ask a question by pressing the Q&A button located at the bottom of the screen. Please type your company's name and your question. We have some questions that have already arrived, and we are going to start with the first one. Can you talk about your recent 3.5 billion pesos credit facility?
Yes. Hi, good morning, everyone. Just to mention, we just launched today that information to the market. We just signed a new credit facility for 3.5 billion pesos, which includes two different lines, one of 3 billion and one of 0.5 billion pesos. The first thing that we're going to do with that facility is to prepay 2 billion pesos of the actual facility that we have with the credit loans. And then we're going to have a lot of space also to new opportunity growth for the company. With this, we are extended our maturity debt profile, and also we are lowering our cost of debt.
Very well. Now we have another question from Credit Suisse. Could you please, this is a question from Credit Suisse, could you please elaborate more on your 2 billion pesos CapEx guidance? And how do you determine your maintenance of this CapEx?
Thanks, Ana Paula. Yes, with these figures for 2021, with these 2 billion pesos, we're expecting to use approximately 600 million pesos for maintenance CapEx, so for renewal fleet, and the rest we'll be using it throughout the year to grow the company. So we're expecting to use in that numbers throughout the year. So the full potential of our investment, we will be looking for that in 2022 for sure.
Then we have another question from BBVA Bancomer, and they are asking, what are your expected results for 2021?
Could you repeat the question, please?
BBVA, what are your expected results for 2021?
Okay, we give a guidance that the company is planning to grow 10% in revenues and 10% in EBITDA.
Does anybody want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
No, just to complement in the other question, the maintenance capex that we usually use in the company, it's around 3% of our revenue. So just to be clear on the first question of Credit Suisse, that will be the other answer of the second question.
And then Martin Lara asks if you think that you will grow in line with the GDP or faster than GDP in the long term.
Yeah, the company has been growing faster than the GDP. We're gaining market, so we expect to continue this way.
What number are you calculating when you think about GDP? Because it's been quite volatile, no?
I mean, we have been growing much more higher than the GDP. So I believe the trend will continue.
Okay, so we are waiting for a few more of the questions from the audience as we speak on this Investors Day, the first Investor Day for TRAXION. And Martin Lara asks again if you plan to keep a low leverage in 2021 or you have plans to increase it.
Thank you, Martin. We're planning to remain, obviously, at some point the same way that we made in 2020. So at some point with the growth of the company that we're expecting, we're planning to maintain the leverage in the same levels.
Let me see if we get some more questions from the audience. Barclays asks, how much do you expect your logistics and technology division to contribute to revenues in 2021? And what margins could we assume?
We expect to have revenues about $200 million and with an EBITDA margin of 10%. And it's important to notice that this is the division asset light of the company, the new division. So it's growing.
And hopefully we get some more questions from the audience. We have another question from Ruben Lopez from Santander. TRAXION has clearly benefited from e-commerce since measures against COVID started. What is the opportunity in the medium term? How much could this segment represent for you?
I mean, we see that this trend arrived to Mexico to stay. Mexico is still undeveloped in e-commerce. We have around 9% of the total commerce from the country, and we believe this percentage will grow a lot in the near future comparing to other countries. So we expect to continue growing in this business line, and it's going to be a very important part of the business.
Rogelio Araujo asks, he thanks the presentation and asks if you could provide more color on the asset-light business. How much does this represent of TRAXION's revenue versus a few years ago, and what to expect going forward?
A few years ago, this business line represent maybe it was around $25–30 million in revenues. Now, as I mentioned, we expect to have revenues in about $200 million. So it's growing on a very high rate, and we expect to continue growing this business line.
Also, could you please give more information on how integrated logistics could be a driver for growth in upcoming years?
Yeah, I mean, in Mexico, only a few percentage of the companies outsource the logistics comparing to other countries. As we said in the presentation, in Mexico, we are around 14% of the companies that outsource this service, comparing to other countries in the world that they outsource like 65% of the companies this service. So we have a lot of space to grow. And we are seeing in our market every year we have new clients, and we see more clients that are going into outsourcing logistics. So we expect to continue growing on a similar rate that we are growing right now.
Okay, let's see. We have some more questions. There was a question about the aging of your fleet. What were you thinking about the aging of your fleet?
Yeah, we are happy right now with the age we have of the fleet, and we know that we have to continue this way. That's the best way to be productive and efficient in the operation segment. So we are looking forward to keep the age of the fleet as average as we have right now.
Colin Fitzgerald asks, you mentioned e-commerce logistics being outsourced as only 14% in Mexico versus around 60% in the developed world. How and when will this 14% figure rise?
This figure has been rising since last year because obviously the boom of e-commerce driven by the pandemic also drove other logistics channels that were related to e-commerce. So the outsource of logistics has been growing. We expect it to keep growing and penetrating. It's hard to tell an exact number, but we think that 2020 was the kickoff year, if you will, for this growth.
And also, Colin Fitzgerald, if there are any marketplaces or subsegments where you see the most immediate opportunity to offer the last mile service.
Well, of course, the retail part of the business of e-commerce is the best way to get into this business. We now represent a big part of our business of last mile goes to e-commerce. So I think, and we think that that's the channel that will be growing in the future in very good percentage each year.
Javier Gayol asking about the management team. Is it looking for M&A opportunities? If so, in which of the company's business lines are you more bullish?
Yeah, so I mean, TRAXION now has complete a platform that allows us to grow organically. So we are not looking actively for M&A, but we are open to evaluate any acquisition that will represent a good opportunity for TRAXION, and this will be mainly in the asset-light business.
Luciano Bullo from Santander, are there any verticals or mobility markets missing in the strategy, and how large are they relative to current segments?
So of course, there are always good verticals that can be added to our service platform. As Javi told you already, we're really focused on growing the asset-light division and the technology division. So we're still looking every day to improve our services offer to the market.
Eugenia Pichardo has an interesting question. Please elaborate. She asks, how does COVID-19 positively impact your sales and EBITDA, and whether TRAXION risks will lower in the future?
Thank you, Maru. Thanks for your question. TRAXION has benefited, sadly, from the COVID-19 situation. At the beginning of 2020, we launched our asset-light division for logistics and technology-driven businesses, we envisioned a natural penetration of such channels driven by natural market forces. Sadly, the COVID-19 situation unleashed huge e-commerce activity that we were very well positioned to take advantage of from. And well, our diversification, our financial discipline, and our technological innovation allowed us to take such advantage. And these three pillars are going to be the drivers of growth in coming months. And once we go back to normal, we think that we will have a better gauge of our risks within the company.
Roberta Versiani asks, how big can your logistics segment be 10 years from now?
I mean, I would like to talk first about the next future. We believe this is going to be a third of the business in the near future. And it's a division that is growing fast. So I believe in 10 years, it's going to be something really big comparing to now. And talking about now, it's already it will be a 200 million revenue division and growing fast.
From Actinver, Salvador Ogas asks, what are your expectations on TRAXION's stock price 12 months from now?
Obviously, our expectations are good, but they are only expectations. We think that the stock price is still undervalued in terms of multiples, but we cannot control what the market thinks or perceives of the stock. We are working very hard to keep delivering good results, to maintain margins, to keep a comfortable cash position, and to deliver the balance sheet. And well, at the end, that should be a positive perspective.
Ingrid Castillo asks if you could elaborate on your guidance and what are the main drivers in revenues and the main contributors in terms of profitability.
Yes, just asking that question, again, we're expecting to grow our revenues and EBITDA around 10%. With this and the CapEx guidance that we already give to the market, we're expecting to continue with the same levels in the regular segment basis. And as Abby just mentioned, also we are expecting to grow faster the logistics segment. Remember that the margins in these segments are lower, but the ROIC that we're expecting and the IRR that we're expecting also in this segment of the business could be higher than the regular ones because we don't have to invest a lot of money. It's the other way around. So we're expecting in a different numbers in that side of the business, and that will be also a trigger for the revenues of the company in 2021.
Thank you. Ramon Ortiz from Actinver asks if you are studying or evaluating options for inorganic growth during the coming months.
The company is not actively looking for acquisitions, but we are open to find any strategic one in the logistics and technology side of the business.
Thank you, Abby. Gordon Lee had a question here. Is there some scope about expanding through M&A in Mexico? And would you ever consider expanding outside of Mexico?
For the near future, we're going to stay in Mexico. And in the future, we could consider going out of Mexico, but we still have much space to grow here in the country, so we're going to stay here for a while.
Thank you, Abby. Rogerio Araujo, will the expansion of asset-light business drive a margin reduction in upcoming years, as well as a CapEx decrease as a percentage of revenue?
Okay, the traditional part of the business is also growing, and it's growing with a margin that is over 20%. The logistic and technology business is growing on a lower margin that is around 10%. So we believe that at the end, we're going to maintain the margin of the company in the around 20%. 21% for the near future.
But as Wolf explained, the investments in the logistics segments are way lower than the traditional, so the returns on invested capital will be higher in that side of the business. So even though the margins are lower, we're expecting to see better ROICs in the future.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Pablo Monsiváis, could you please shed some light on the competitive landscape?
We have seen some competitors lose ground over the COVID-19 situation. On the other side, TRAXION was able to gain market share and gain new clients because of size, scale, economies of scale, diversification. But in the asset-light business, in logistics and technology, we see relatively few competitors. There are a lot of regional companies, of startups, and we are definitely trying to become one of the key competitors here.
Thank you, Antonio. And Guillermo from Santander asks, what kind of IRR does the asset-light business have?
Okay, maybe we will mention in different presentations before, the basic ones that we use for the company, it's an IRR of 20%. In this side of the business, we can expect something higher of that, as just Rodolfo just mentioned. So I think should be something of this number. So again, it's not just the IRR and also the ROIC, because we're not investing a lot of money, it's just the other way around. So should be higher than the 20%.
And what kind of growth do you expect, or how scalable is it?
In terms of the segment, as Abby just mentioned, I think this has a large capability to grow. For now in Mexico, it's something that we're penetrating also in the market. So again, we're expecting to be more representative in our revenues in 2021 and continue with this trend in the next future.
From Santander, again, Ruben Lopez has a follow-up question. He says, what is the time frame to get to $200 million sales in the asset-light business? And is all of this incremental, or does it consider your current asset-light operations?
It does consider the current asset-light operations. So we believe we're going to be around 200 million for this year in total revenues for the logistics and technology division.
Thank you, Abby. Rafael Buerba, could you elaborate further on how and when will the new asset-light initiatives be reflected on an improvement in ROIC?
At some point, we can look for that in 2020, in the last year, as we just launched with more specific targets in the previous year. But for now on, we're expecting to see this to continue growing in 2021 and for sure in the next future.
Thank you, Wolf. Guillermo from Santander gives a few numbers and asks if you aren't being too conservative, given the operational performance you have had so far on your revenues.
Okay, it's an uncertain year. We're still on COVID time. So that's why we decided to give this guidance to the market. The company will continue to make his big effort to grow and to be profitable. But we are being, yes, could say conservative because of the season that we are living right now.
Thank you, Abby. Daniel Garber, any plans to increase the free float in the near future?
I mean, the company has enough cash to grow and to capture the opportunities. As we saw, the company's leverage only 1.6 times net to EBITDA. So we have enough money to invest. So we're going to continue being in the same structure as we are right now for the next future.
Thank you, Abby. Clark Sanchez asks from Bambajillo, with a scenario of increasing fuel costs in our country, what are Traxion's strategies, or what is Traxion's strategy to keep its operating expenses stable?
In terms of fuel cost, whenever we see a rise, what we have been doing historically and what is the practice in the sector is to pass through the cost of fuel ultimately to the client. That's the way it's been done for 50 years or more. We don't expect any change from that. So that's the way we keep our operating costs under control, especially that of fuel, which is, as you know, our most significant operating cost.
Thank you, Antonio. Alejandro de Michelis, could you please indicate the level of growth that you see in your different divisions over the next 3 to 5 years?
We see our different divisions are going to keep growing. Obviously, the one that has the fastest prospect of growth is logistics and technology. But we also see a very decent rate of growth in the personal transportation business, which is a business that is not that mature as many would think. There are a lot of opportunities, large opportunities with clients, especially as industrial parks keep expanding in Mexico and public transportation cannot cope with increased demand. Our personal transportation service is an excellent alternative for companies to take their employees and avoid using public transportation. And cargo is a very essential business to the economy. It's a very essential sector. We didn't realize how essential it was until COVID-19. And we plan that to grow as well at more decent or at less explosive rates as the other two segments. But by 3 years from now, we expect probably the three segments each contributing 1/3 of revenues, considering the growth and that we envision.
Thank you, Antonio. Rogerio Araujo asks another question on the asset-light business revenue. He says it should come at around $200 million in 2021. How much was it in 2020?
So the asset-light business in 2020, rough numbers around $150 million. So as we're saying, we see a good growth in 2021.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Tulio Chavez from Banorte. How does this light asset approach, how can it be potentially translated into a sustainable EBITDA margin expansion for the next few years? And are there any assessments on an EBITDA margin target on the long term that the company expects to achieve?
For the potentially in the sustainable EBITDA margins, as Abby just mentioned before also, we're expecting to maintain our EBITDA margins, even that the technology and the logistics side, we are expecting a lower EBITDA margins. We are expecting also to complement that with the base of the other two segments that we had in the company that are higher than the 20% base. So that will be how we can at some point average that margins, and we expect to be around 20-21%.
Thank you, Wolf. Jose Montero, any plans in the short to mid-term to move on to more clean energy units?
We obviously have a plan in place. Last year, if you recall, we started using natural gas buses for personal transportation. We always are innovating in this matter, but you obviously need to take into account that we need to go as the country evolves and as other technologies are implemented in Mexico.
Thank you, Antonio. Pablo Monsiváis, what was the asset-light division sales in 2020 and 2019?
As we said, 2020 was roughly around $150 million, and 2019, I think like $100 million.
Okay, and from BBVA, Yaroslav Piotrowski asks, when are you expecting the school transportation business to recover? And is this going to mean an increase in your fleet since you relocated those buses to other businesses?
Of course, we don't know exactly when the school buses will return to normally. That's a government issue and COVID issue that's still with us. School buses represent around 4% of our revenues. So we are ready to get back to business and with the schools whenever it's necessary. And if everything maintains, of course, this will be an increase in our fleet. That's a good part of the business in the passenger side.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Prashtan Premjumar asks how much of the logistics business growth is going to come from mining existing customers versus adding new customers.
So the logistics side, we're gaining business in both sides. Of course, we're getting a lot of business through cross-selling the clients that we already have and offering them service that we didn't give to them. But we also created a strong commercial team in the logistics side and technology side that will add new clients to our base. So we think we have still much to gain in the cross-selling business, but we're looking for new clients also each day.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Daniel Garber from Fiera Capital. What percentage of cargo revenues were outsourced, and how much of that was done through the digital broker platform? What are the respective margins for those revenues? And this question relates to fiscal year 2020. Any guidance going forward would also be helpful.
For 2020, if we look for the previous year, it was around 600 million pesos what we have in that platform, and we outsource through different providers of the cargo side. And the regular margins that we can expect in this kind of business in terms of EBITDA will be around 7 to 10%. So that's what we could expect in this kind of outsourced business in the cargo side with the brokerage in the platform.
Thank you, Wolf. Again, from Fiera Capital, from Daniel Garber, could you talk a bit about Traxporta and the economics? How is it performing and where is it going?
So Traxporta, we see a lot of business in the near future. We think that's an innovative and disruptive platform that we will gain business in Mexico. We know it's going to represent a good part of the technology and logistics segment in TRAXION.
Thank you, Rodolfo. I'm going to close with this one. Juan Carlos Lezama says, I just want to congratulate all the team for the results. I'm sure the best is yet to come, and I am sure of that as well. Thank you, everybody, and for having all these questions and posing them to TRAXION's group.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your timely questions, extremely valuable questions, and for all your contributions. Before finishing up, I would like to ask Avilestein for a few closing remarks. Thank you, Ana Paola. 10 years ago, I founded TRAXION with the idea of consolidating a fragmented sector which was dominated by family businesses and for developing an integral solution throughout the entire supply chain. Today, TRAXION is leader in mobility and logistics in Mexico. Our vision is to push forward a digital model to which we see an amazing growth potential, while taking care at the same time of our traditional business line, which are leader with profitable growth and provide us with enough cash flow to supply the next. Everyone who sees us in Mexico and who are present in this conference have exposure to TRAXION on their day-to-day life. Many of the products they use or consume on a daily basis were transported by TRAXION at some stage during its supply chain, or were manufactured by people who came to work in trucks operated by TRAXION. I truly hope this presentation has been useful for you. We've just shown you how we see the business moving forward and how we've evolved since we became a public company. We have undoubtedly made a significant evolution within the company regarding our business lines, finances, operations, and sustainability. We have been growing hand in hand with the market for 3 years now. Without your trust, these results would have never been possible. It's been an amazing journey, and we are truly fortunate to have you on board. TRAXION today is a solid company with strong balance sheet, and we are one of the few companies who have proven to have profitable growth and a resilient business model in such a resilient time such as we are facing right now, from which we were actually able to take advantage of. I am convinced that we will be able to capture the big expansion of e-commerce in Mexico. This is a huge business opportunity, and we have the great advantage of being in optimal conditions to take full advantage of it. I am convinced that the future of our business lies in technological advances and human talent, and that's the direction we are leading the company in. I would like to thank our investors, whom, thanks to their trust and capital, we've been able to lay the foundations of our growth. I would also like to thank our clients, for without them, our business would simply not exist. Finally, I want to thank the entire TRAXION family, whom I am so proud to lead, because without every single one of you, these extraordinary results would not have been possible. Thank you very much for having joined us, and have an amazing day.